I pulled him over just because it's 4 shaved heads, leaving a driving in a quiet neighborhood that's been experiencing burglaries at 1 a.m. No, by itself, no. Right? Because anybody can drive through any neighborhood.
It could be 4 cancer patients, too.
It could be.
Or 4 monks.
But you don't know until you pull
4 monks. They might be coming out of the monastery.
Welcome back to a very episode of the Careful Boys today with Aram Choe, everybody.
Thank you.
First responder.
I'm going to walk out of here.
This guy loves it.
Yeah, one more. You got 1 shot. 3 strikes, dude. You're out.
No, go ahead, please.
No, I was telling
You're
Bart.
about to adopt this?
Yeah, is that your new thing? You should go into the station. Go into the station. Wee!
Or you could go in your unmarked cars.
Hey, pull over, bad guy.
Okay, I've done it before.
Feel free to use any of these, please.
So, let's talk cops and racial profiling.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Doesn't exist. Done.
You see a guy with a turban?
No, they put 2 words, racial and profile, together that don't need to be there. Because profiling is profiling. What is it? Yeah. Do we gender profile? Do we racial profile? Do we height profile? Do we skin color profile? Yes, because when you report a crime, you're going to tell me what that person looks like. You don't, and especially if it's a stranger, you're going to give me broad details. He was male, Asian, looked 30 to 35, had long hair. So when I take that report and I'm out on the streets and I'm looking for someone matching that description, am I profiling them? Yeah, and am I profiling based on their race, their gender, their height, their hair color? Yeah, all those things. But because they put a nasty
stigma
to it, it inhibited us from doing our job. So now today cops have to do something called RIPA. And don't ask me what it stands for. Racial identification something. But after every enforcement context, if I stop you and say, hey Bart, you ran that stop sign, I'm not going to give you a ticket, just a warning, and let you go, I still have to enter your demographic of what I perceive you to be. Well, he looks to be 25 to 35. He looks like to be a male Asian.
Could be Korean.
Could be Korean, but we put Asian. It's a broad, right?
Specific.
And I guess your height, and I guess your weight, and I'm on my way. And I have to do that for every contact.
But you're letting him go because he's Asian.
Yes.
You're free to go, my brother.
But that's where you made a mistake, when you let this Asian go.
You, my brother.
I'm crashing someone.
But
Come sum it up.
but look, I work in a predominantly Hispanic community, right? So what do you think my stats are going to say?
A lot of Mexican.
Yes.
So as a result, if someone were to say, I think Aram's racist against Hispanics, let me see his stats. It's going to show 70% Hispanic. Why are the overwhelming majority?
This guy's only Hispanics. You want us to cut that out? Yeah. How come you don't pull over Armenians?
Right. No, because I work in a community that it's 70% Hispanic. So if I worked in a community like Monterey Park where it's 70% Asian,
You're self-hating Asian man.
what's it going to say? Yeah,
You just get yourself a chink stamp and just keep going.
So the thing is, you're I don't want to say it. You're subject to the demographic you work in, right?
Yeah.
So people will skew those stats and they will target me. And a good defense, if I'm a defense attorney and you're paying me good money, you as a defendant are going to ask me to pull all the stops, and that's going to be one of the stops that they pull. Isn't it true that you pull over my client because he's Hispanic? No. Well, according to your stats, you pull over 70% of the people you pull over are Hispanic, and before I can even say, well, it's 70%, yes or no question, yes or no answer,
God.
and hopefully that you're thinking the prosecutor will bail you on the redirect and say, hey, is it true that 70% of your demographic is Hispanic? Yes, and I don't target Hispanic people. It's just 7 out of 10 people I pull over are going to be Hispanic, and that's all it is.
Does it piss you off when you get to court and then you can tell the lawyer's just playing like the game rather than really trying to find?
No, because you expect it. Maybe your first go around, it does surprise you, but yeah, you're desensitized. You expect it. So your answers are very, you see court dramas and stuff, and the answers are very elaborate, and they go on. The answers are usually like, were you a police officer on this date? And my answer is yes. I don't give them any more than the specific question they ask me. But as a result of the point I just brought up, with having to do it for every contact, what do you think officers are doing now? More contacts or less? Right? They're doing less.
Yeah. Less description.
You don't try to cry and stuff?
No.
Yeah.
Dab your eyes.
Imagine if
You don't look at the jury?
I mean, there's a little bit of acting, right? So, like, one of the things I love, especially because early in my career, now cops have degrees, but when I first started having a degree, it was an anomaly for a cop. And a good defense attorney will try to tear apart your paper and be like, and you know, you're typing 10, 15 reports a day, you might make a typo, and they'll say, you spelled this wrong. Tell me about your education, because you're telling me that you know the law, but you can't even do this. You missed a comma here. I'm like, well, I actually have a master's degree, and I say it, and they can't stop you. You know, so the judge will let it go on. No, tell you asked about his qualifications. So I'm like, oh yeah, I'd bait that.
Do you knuckle bump the judge?
No.
So you're
Maybe
specifically letting out commas and stuff like that?
No. But like you can see, especially if you've been maybe testifying for 3 or 5 years, you can kind of see.
So you know where your openings are to like say things that'll help.
If you can throw a jab right back at somebody that's trying to nail you, that's like the biggest victory. Yeah, it's a big moral victory.
I always felt like racial profiling works. Because if someone was like, hey, so there's this guy, he's been going to all the parks, dunking, breaking all the rims, and after he pulls the rims down, he sings beautiful R&B songs. I'm like, oh, that's a black guy for sure.
It's investigative work, right? You're
You're not gonna blame the white guy.
Really tall Filipino. It could be a Puerto Rican.
I was thinking about Armenian guy.
But they're very dark, so I'm already narrowed it down to the dark people.
That's true. But it's going to be. I mean, but yes, you're on. It's not that specific incident, but you're on the right track, right? You use your investigative tools. We're investigators.
Dunking basketball.
Yeah.
He honey dipped it. He put his little elbow in there.
I would assume that nowadays, like if you have a woke witness, it's probably the most difficult crime to solve, because you'll be like, what was the description? Well, they were like, well, I don't want to assume the gender, so it's probably like non-binary. I don't know. Well, I don't even know about their sexual preference. And were they like, how tall were they? Well, I don't want to discriminate because they might identify as a tall person, but they look kind of short to me. Be like, what's their race? Well, I don't want to judge, but like,
it's comedy because it's ridiculous. Right?
It's ridiculous. So it's like, how do you even describe what you see?
Since when did me describing what I saw become racist or discriminatory, right?
Yeah, it's just procedural. Yeah. And it's supposed to be boring.
But the
really.
whole thing started because it was actually like, oh, let's grab him because he's black or whatever. That was the real racial profiling.
Have you ever run into the problem where, like, usually this is only a problem because they don't like the race they don't like that it's that race. But has it ever happened when they're like, looks like you're pulling over a lot of white guys?
Yeah. Again,
Your numbers are off.
Because it doesn't happen in my city, right? Just the city. I can only talk about the city I work in, but if I can compare what my experience is, I can say that a lot of officers have similar experiences. Yeah. The only reason why I'd be pulling over an overwhelming majority of white people is if the demographic showed that, right?
Yep. Like Fashion Island,
right? Or it'd be Asian in that case too, right? Because whites aren't considered minorities. But there's a lot of Asians too.
But the Asians we let go.
Yeah. Yes.
Catch and release the Asians.
But if I'm pulling over Asians, even if I let them go, I still have to document the demographic on there, right? And in California, everybody's got tinted windows. And you don't know who you're pulling over literally until that window's down. So you only pulled me over because I'm black. Well, I didn't know. Honestly, the first glance I had of you was because.
But you knew because of his rims.
Yep.
Like, I had a suspicion.
And the subwoofer.
I saw the Monte Carlo. I knew.
Yeah. And then the Popeyes box in the backseat.
Okay.
All right, dude.
Okay. He was hungry, dude. He was hungry. I don't know. Okay. I like Popeyes too.
That's true. I could tell their race by the car they drive.
Yeah. The scent of Jollibee.
Do you subconsciously guess which race they are, though, by the car they drive?
You have to. Even
No,
TSA
not at all.
people could do that.
White Tesla. What do you think it is? White Tesla.
Asian mom.
Yeah. White dog in the back, probably.
I have a buddy, he's a deputy, and like when we're driving, he'll tell me he'll just tell me the car, just based off the car, how the car looks. He tells me what race or demo that person is, and probably what he can catch him for right then and there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's a developed expertise,
skill, right?
It's like being Dr. Xavier.
That should be,
Puts on the helmet.
that should be something that's complimented, right?
Cerebro.
You know, just like a doctor, they can you explain your symptoms. Oh, you have this, most likely. You know,
Yeah.
and that's probably he's guessing. He's not saying 100%. He's not going to put $1,000 on it.
Yeah.
He's a professional
But he's the high probability to.
And he's done it for like 17
Put
years.
200.
But when doctors do that and they get it right,
Yeah.
you know,
Genius.
yeah, great experienced doctor.
Oh, you have child support back payments. Oh.
That's true. Because the doctor would be like, oh, you're Asian, you probably got like high sodium or whatever. Like they could go, oh, this ethnic group has diabetes.
Yeah. This guy's Filipino. He may or may not have gout. We don't know.
Probably, but probably does. Probably does.
Too much lechon and too much halo halo.
Dude, yeah, dude, for sure.
You eat less rice, less salt, and a little bit more vegetables.
Yeah.
How often does a late registration lead to, like, expired registration lead to something more?
I don't know if there's a stat for that, but it does give us a tool to pull somebody over, right? Yeah. So if we see a car and this is going to sound like profiling, but because it is, you see 4 shaved heads and it's
Right away.
1 o'clock in the morning.
Call for backup right away.
We need the National Guard.
We need 3 helicopters right now.
Can I pull them over just because it's 4 shaved heads, leaving a neighbor, driving in a quiet neighborhood that's been experiencing burglaries at 1 in the morning? No, by itself, no. Right? Because anybody can drive through any neighborhood. Sure. Just because that neighborhood had a lot of burglaries doesn't mean it was that car. Right. But if that
Could be 4 cancer patients too.
It could be.
Or 4 monks.
4 months.
They might be coming out of the monastery.
And this is coming from a guy that shaves his head.
Right.
But
You're a monk?
no, not today.
Oh, okay.
But if I pull that car over, it has to be for a reason. So expired registration gives me a reason. And now when I make that contact, can I lead to other reasonable suspicion? If I look in the car and there's burglary tools, okay, well that's suspicion now. That's reasonable suspicion to conduct an investigation, pull them up.
What's a tool that would be like a dead giveaway that doesn't look obvious to people like us if we saw it?
Probably, screwdrivers, hacksaws. For a long time, cars were being protected through the club. Remember the club? The steering wheel club?
He still has one.
Yeah, they're great. They're great deterrent because, like the Kias were getting hot wired really easy. How do you defeat that? Well, club. So the only way to defeat that club is to hacksaw the steering wheel and pop the club off.
I have another one that locks my brake.
That's a good one too.
The brake pedal, and I got the club.
And you remember, like in the '90s, it was popular to get a kill switch, right? The little chip that you pulled off to kill your ignition. But every good deterrent is good until somebody figures out a way to defeat those. That's why you don't see a lot of those today.
So when it comes to racial profiling, in a sense, so again, just purely hypothetical.
I vote yes.
What?
Oh.
Keep your hand up.
Would I be able to ask you, like, out of all the different types of people that, like, you've had to pull over or anything, like, is there, like, a specific race or anything like that that gives you more of a hard time consistently?
Indians.
They're always bargaining their sentence, dude.
We don't do this now.
That's
We
why I
do
don't
this in
work
court.
Artesia anymore.
No, I was speeding, but can you give me a parking ticket? Now
It's an excellent question because there's not a lot of questions, especially about my job, that make me stop and think. But I've never really given that much a thought because if I get attacked, if people give me a hard time, I can think back of almost everybody from every gender, every race that has given me a hard time. And most of the time, nobody likes to be pulled over, but I've been disrespected by everybody.
From grandmas, from teenagers to everybody. Wow.
Older people will discriminate a different way. They think you know less because you're younger than them. Younger people, they feel empowered because they've accessed Wikipedia pages or something.
I know my rights.
They'll say laws.
Oh man.
People your age, and I've gotten you just pulled me over because I drive a better car than you. I'm like, okay, and like, they're just, yeah. So it comes out of left field, right field, center field.
You pulled me over because I'm in a Miata. Is that what it is?
How do you hold yourself back from not punching them through the window? Because when I watch some of these cop videos, I'm like, ooh, bro.
Dude, yeah, that's hard.
Like,
It's not fair for the new guys for me to say this, especially since I mentor a lot of the new guys. But when I first started police work, I remember I started in a different time.
You were allowed to punch people.
yeah, I thought you were gonna say.
Well, I don't want to say allowed, but there was an understanding that if you put hands on a cop, the cop was going to put hands on you.
Oh yeah.
And it was justified, right? Because we don't get paid, even to this day, we don't get paid to take punches, right? But there's a segment of our population that are like, yes, you do. Just like we said, we don't get paid to get killed. We don't get paid to get shot. Yes, you do. You knew the risks. Yeah, we get paid for the risks, but we try to mitigate those risks as best as possible. And sometimes that means being a good offensive player, not just playing defense. So I don't care how quick you are, your reaction is always going to be slower than an action. So I'm not going to wait for you to pull out a gun and shoot me. There was a stabbing, I forget where it was. Oh, not stabbing. It was a guy that had he was shot, but he only had a knife. But the guy kept reaching into his waistband. He led officers on a pursuit. He crashed, came out of the car, and kept reaching into his waistband. What are you going to think, right?
Yeah.
So I'm not waiting for him to pull it out and then for me to react to, confirmed it was gun, 9mm, it's real, it's not an airsoft. Okay, now I can. By then it's too late.
Yeah.
So he reached, he pulled something out, officer shot, he died, and then what it ended up being was a knife. 2 knives, actually.
2?
Yeah, he had 2 knives.
But the other one he didn't pull.
What the?
I'm trying to think. I just saw the video in briefing, and I couldn't tell you what it was. It was a local San Gabriel Valley agency, though.
Have you ever had a deal with like a standoff or whatever, but they were a magician?
No.
Let him cook, guys. Let him cook.
Hold on. He's about to pull the rabbit.
I gotta see where you're going here.
Cause they'll be tricky, you know, cause you don't know when they're gonna pull a gun.
Oh yeah.
It could be a dove and just, you know, and then like you think they're right here, and then you fucking go and they're over here.
It's a huge growing problem in the South.
I mean, it sounds
area.
it sounds ridiculous, right? But at our city, we had some. They looked like First Amendment auditors. You ever seen?
Oh yeah. They just record you the whole
So
time.
they were by the air traffic control tower of our airport, and they called it in. They said 2 guys are standing videotaping, and they have guns and holsters on their person, and. It used to be illegal to do that, but you can open carry, right? You can have a holster and a gun, and it's not illegal. But we still have the right. The law allows us to stop and inspect it to make sure it's compliant with the magazine, the type of gun, and stuff like that. And that's what these people were doing, trying to see if officers were going to, give them a hard time.
So they were baiting you guys?
Yes, to do that. So yeah, kind of like in the same way a magician will like, ooh.
Yeah.
And for us, it's uncomfortable when somebody has a weapon, right? Arizona is an open carry state, but it's
the culture there.
But it's understood that during a traffic stop, I'm going to temporarily take your weapon for your safety and mine, and so they'll take the weapon and put it on the hood or something, just so that the contact is comfortable, because it's uncomfortable. And then the argument on their side of well, how do I know you're not going to shoot me? That's just completely preposterous. That cops are out there murdering people. It's. Has it happened before? Maybe back in the 50s, 60s, where things were a different time. But in this day and age with body cams, car cams, cell phone cams, traffic cams, finding a rogue cop you got to be completely dumb, and there are dumb ones.
How come body cameras run out of batteries at the wrong time?
So people forget that our shifts are at minimum 12 hours. And we go beyond our shifts all the time.
That's why the batteries,
and the batteries need to sit on a dock to recharge, and we don't get to do that unless we come back to the station. And
What about when the camera shuts off every time there's like a hot chick in the backseat?
Yeah. Check the back seat.
But the microphone's still on for some reason.
That guy was a dummy. That's one of the dummies I was alluding to.
That's so fun.
He has so much potential, though.
Idiot,
So much
dude.
potential.
Yeah, and do cops do stupid things? Absolutely. But who are the cops? They're not robots. They're people. Do people do stupid things? Absolutely.